Good evening, folks. It's your Big Gold Belt Wrestling podcast, and we have a stacked show tonight coming out of a very busy weekend that went down across the border in Canada and the Great White North. We have Money in the Bank to talk about. We have briefcases that have already been won and lost. We have an NXT Heatwave that is incredibly well received. We have more NXT TNA crossover action. We got people being snatched out of the forbidden door and so much more. Folks, buckle in for the next hour. Your Big Gold Belt Wrestling podcast starts right now.
Big Gold Belt, Big Gold Belt, Big Gold Belt, Big Gold Belt, Big Gold Belt. All I really want is that Big Gold Belt, 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 Big Gold Belt. All I really need, that Big Gold Belt.
How are you doing, everybody? You got your two-man power trip tonight. It's your boy Will over here with the Giant Crab Jamal on the other side of the screen. And I'm kind of glad it's just the two of us tonight because there is a lot to cover. And sometimes when we have the full house panel, it takes a while to get through things. And there is a lot going on. We had a stacked weekend in Canada that we're going to get to. We got a lot of newsworthy shows that have happened this week. And God, there's signings happening apparently too. Rumors of signings, returns, all kinds of stuff. So it's going to be a busy show tonight here on the Big Gold Belt Wrestling Podcast. Thanks for joining us. Jamal, how are you doing tonight?
It's hot as an all hell outside. That's number one. The second thing is it's been, the Money in the Bank. NXT has really been firing on all cylinders. AEW is definitely starting to pick it up. Adam Page is probably the most interesting he's been in a long time. So, what a time during the summer.
Yeah, there is a lot going on. It is hot weather and it is hot on these wrestling shows. There is a lot happening. We'll try to get into as much of it as we can tonight in the next hour. So I think the way we're going to do this is we are going to start at the weekend and work our way forward because there is just a lot to get into. So folks, starting off, we had Saturday night. It was Money in the Bank from World Wrestling Entertainment up in Toronto. The first of their major shows this weekend. Well, it's the second technically because SmackDown was in Toronto. They had their Canadian takeover this weekend. So Money in the Bank was Saturday night with, of course, the Money in the Bank matches as the big, hook on these shows as they have always been. A gimmick that in a lot of ways I've felt has lost a lot of steam in recent years because it's almost felt like we've had these briefcases and as opposed to being excited about what's going to happen with them, it's been more a case of how can we get out of this? I guess part of that was, of course, we had the tribal chief mega reign going on for years where it was like, that ain't going to end on a Money in the Bank cash in. And now we even had the 1 year where it was cashed in on the U.S. title. So this year it kind of feels a little different, but a show that I would say seems to have gotten a lot of mixed reviews coming out of that night. As we've seen in recent times, it's a 5-match show, very tight. Nothing, no fluff on this thing. That's for sure. 2 Money in the Bank matches between the women's and the men's. Triple threat for the World Heavyweight Championship. Well, I guess a match got turned into a threat for the World Heavyweight Championship. Intercontinental title. And then, of course, a 6-man tag with the Bloodline against Cody and Orton and Kevin Owens as their main event. So kind of a very interesting kind of mix of matches on this show. How we want to do is we want to do kind of like what jumps out at us. Who, I'm kind of thinking winners and losers of this card.
Well, based on what we thought last week with Damian and I, was that what was going to be the thing that stuck out from this show? We know what Money in the Bank is. We know what it's evolved into. How does this work out? Will Drew McIntyre finally get his day and become a champion? Will he even bother to cash in? Or will he ride out this briefcase until SummerSlam? That's kind of thinking there. The Bloodline is really in their own cinematic universe. They are basically their own show within the show. So whatever they do is whatever they do, as they're definitely building towards next WrestleMania. The Women's Money in the Bank, same thing. Where it would be nice if Naomi or Io Sky took it, but they seem to really love Tiffany Stratton. What would that look like with her having the briefcase? And then, the other match happened, Sami Zayn versus Braun Breaker, and it's like, fine. But I'd say that now that we have the results of that, the question does become, well, now that it went down the way that it did, was this the right move? Because you could argue that the 6-man bloodline match, did it need to be on the pay-per-view? The money because that takes away from the Money in the Bank experience anyway. It has nothing to do with it, and yet it closed the show. So how do we justify that when you have this elephant in the room, screaming Tribal Chief? So there's that. And then of course the actual cash in with Damian Priest winning over Rollins and McIntyre in that triple threat match. It's like, okay, well, we thought that they were kind of going to just ride this thing out through the summer with Punk chasing McIntyre, chasing whoever's the champion. And it's like, oh, well, okay. They've done that.
I saw a lot of people with the sentiment saying that they wasted the Money in the Bank by doing it this way.
Right.
That it's already out of the way for the whole darn year. I kind of like it. That's not hanging out there as a thing right now. We only have the women's one hanging out there. The men's is just, it's off the table. It's done. See you in a year.
Right. And then it kind of it leads to the mystique of Money in the Bank in general over their other shows where it's like, you don't know what somebody's going to do with it. Mm-hmm. It's about waiting for the opportune moment. And if that moment is now or a year from now or whatever, it's the moment. And as we've seen before, you can still try and fail. I just think in general, there are too many short pathways to a title match.
Mm-hmm.
At first it was, okay, well, the Royal Rumble winner has to wait 3 months, but damn it, WrestleMania, you're the main event. That's what it's going to be. Okay. And then we have Elimination Chamber. And then we have Money in the Bank. And then we have a bunch of other ways to get there where, no, we're just going to set up this thing and get you a title shot this way. And that's another reason why Money in the Bank kind of feels like it's been lost a little bit of steam. Because, well, if you don't win Money in the Bank, then you would just win the next tournament in 6 weeks, whether it's a Battle Royal or Survivor Series or whatever, King of the Ring, or whatever you need to win.
Ticket to SummerSlam now.
Exactly. So whatever you need to win, it just doesn't feel as important. It's like college football has 40 bowl games, and 10 teams can go into the national championship or the playoffs. It's like, okay, well, it used to mean something, and now it's just like, okay, well, sure. And then of course there is the Bloodline, which is they have their own storyline with their own division. The Bloodline saga is its own company, basically. Their own talent works within their own realm. It's 7 or 8 guys. They do their own show and has nothing to do with anybody else. I mean, that kind of feels like, hell, that should just be a Netflix special, to be honest with you. Just take them off Raw. Let them literally have their own show. Let them know that the Tribal Chief is a thing and make cinematic matches or something. But it just feels like it just too many things overshadow the pay-per-view. So that's kind of what it felt like for me, where it's just well, on to the next one, I guess.
Yeah, that 6-man main event, to me, it very much felt like a house show main event that you would get, where it's we're going to get a bunch of the big guys on the card. You're going to get to see the big guys in your town. It's not a title match or nothing, but you're going to get to see everybody. It was very much like a 6-man house show main event, which I don't mind necessarily as for an off show like this, but it definitely, with everything else on the show, the failed cash in, the CM
Backlash is an off show. This is Money in the Bank. It's supposed to mean it's supposed to be one of the big 5.
It was a main event, yet I guess the most noteworthy thing, well, I guess in the end, the key thing was, though, in the end, it was all about having Solo Sikoa get a pinfall over Cody to in theory, set up SummerSlam. So I guess in a storyline purpose, there is a reason for it being there, but you probably could have closed the show with the women's Money in the Bank instead, since the men's one opened, because they wanted to do the whole thing with Drew cashing in. So that wasn't going to close the show. So, I mean, I don't know. definitely a show where it's like, nothing I think we're going to be like looking back on years from now, like, oh my God, remember that Money in the Bank? This is very much one of those, like, it wasn't horrible,
yeah,
but it wasn't anything blow away either.
They kind of peaked with Money on the Roof.
Yes, COVID era with the taking the elevator up and everything. Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
indeed.
I mean that's kind of thing, but that's that's just what it is, and I think that's kind of like the irony of WWE kind of pigeonholing themselves, kind of booking themselves into a corner where this bloodline thing feels so disjointed, and then you have everything else going on, and then even with like when SmackDown ended on Friday. Like, oh, well, cool. Well, wait, damn, this ended early. We got DIY as tag team champions. Okay, that could have been on the pay-per-view. But, that's how you end SmackDown. Okay, cool. They got a lot of time. Oh, Bloodline segment. And that's how you end the show. Oh, okay. I mean, just, I hope that they can, integrate this thing into the rest of the company a little bit better, because it really feels like this thing should just be on, another platform. And just give it to him like that.
Yeah, since she's the only one with a briefcase for the next year, Tiffany Stratton as our Money in the Bank winner. It's been a while since we've had a woman win the briefcase and actually hold on to it for a bit. Most of them in recent years have like done the immediate cash in, where they haven't had to carry it around for any amount of time. And I don't get the feeling that's what's going to happen here. So I'm curious if. Clearly, we know they've been high on Tiffany Stratton since they called her up since NXT, that they've been all about this girl. Is this the move to take her to that next level? Is this the spot where it's like, she gets the briefcase, she'll become champ eventually, sooner, maybe later, who knows? But does this feel like the next natural step for her, you think?
Yeah, I think so. I think that, they really like her. You got to start somewhere. And she's definitely like, when they do something like this and you feel that somebody's being like hot shotted to the front of the line, this doesn't really feel like that, because she's won the Money in the Bank. She's done it. She has like some pleats in her cape. And so it's not just she's blonde and she's, tall and athletic and she's going to be the next best Beth Phoenix. Like, that's not the case. She's actually doing the work. I wouldn't say that I'm a fan of Tiffany Stratton per se, but I do like the fact that they're making her go through the steps and not just throwing another blonde out there and giving her a title. So and also Money in the Bank is no slouch either. It's not like it's something that you can just hide from or win in a BS way or whatever. Like, Money in the Bank can be rough.
Those women took some hard shots in that match.
Money in the Bank can be rough. So. Yeah. So I think that is a thing, and good on her for taking the ball and running with it. But yeah, it definitely does seem like they're setting up something big for SummerSlam with her, and honestly, probably maybe even further down the road, because she has the belt, and that's the wild card. I mean, she has a briefcase rather. That's the wild card. Does she lose it somehow? Does she lose it in a match? Does she cash it in and fail? Against who? And that's all. These are always the questions with Money in the Bank. So, Royal Rumble, same thing. Why not? SummerSlam might be the right time, but not the right opponent. Maybe you wait till Royal Rumble. So there's a lot of questions that would go on, and I think like the mystique of the briefcase itself, like you can cash it at any time, and she just pops up.
I think it will help her that the other briefcase ain't around. So she's the only one with a briefcase right now. There's no other one in play. So she gets to be the entire focus of that gimmick for a while. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah, I think Money in the Bank is doing what King of the Ring used to do, where it doesn't necessarily change your gimmick or anything like that, but it gives you a little bit more focus for a short amount of time. Yeah. Whereas King of the Ring, changes your gimmick and it does the thing. It doesn't really mean anything until this year where it gets you a title shot at SummerSlam. But now it's just like, okay, good. So put some prestige back into Money in the Bank, damn it.
There you go.
Make it mean something again.
Elevate that thing, Tiffy Stratton. We'll see what you do. All right, let's shift gears to the next night, because hell, the next night they were still in Toronto. Like you said, Friday night they got the tag title switch. So they got that happening. They had Money in the Bank on Saturday. And then Sunday, they were still there, and we had NXT Heatwave. Now, NXT Heatwave, my God. I don't know if it's like getting the NXT folks out of the performance center for these shows so they get to be like, in a full-size building and everything. But this crew came to work.
Mm-hmm.
They came to work, and they came to impress. And a lot of people, it seemed like the general consensus I was seeing was that NXT Heatwave blew Money in the Bank out of the water as far as the show goes. So let me look at this one. I'm going to go back on this deal here. So we had Obafemi and Wesley opened for the North American title.
Mm-hmm.
Kalani Jordan and Sol Ruka for the NXT Women's North American Championship. In a lot of ways, that one kind of stole the show. I think for a lot of people, that's just gifts going around this week are all of that match and the crazy stuff those two were doing. NXT tag titles had Frazier and Axiom defending against Chase U. Roxanne Perez and Lola Vice had the women's championship. And then, of course, the main event was the four-way with Trick Williams defending against Javon Evans, Sean Spears, and Ethan Page. So another tight show with 5 matches. But everything on that show, from what I saw, I didn't get to see every single minute of it, but I saw enough to see that everything on this show cooked. It clicked in one way or another. There was no downtime on Heatwave in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I mean, not a single match went over 20 minutes. It was, just 5, decent matches. But that's kind of the thing that we said last week is that, like, hey, you don't have to put on a 50-minute classic for it to be a classic. It's about the substance. It does everything hit on the cylinders that it needs to. And for Heatwave, a lot of the stuff that it did. Now, the big surprise to me, of course, is Ethan Page, which is kind of what we talked about last week, saying, hey, hometown guy, Sean Spears, hometown guy-ish. Wouldn't it be interesting for them to do that, have him, go over in their hometowns? Not just a home country deal, but Ethan Page is from Hamilton, right down the road.
Right.
Sean Spears is an hour past that in Niagara Falls. And then Ethan Page wins. So interesting to see what happens. Obviously, Trick Williams, what more does he need to do in NXT? I'm not sure. So with Ethan Page winning that, I wonder what the next move for Trick Williams is.
Good point. I think Trick Williams, I don't see him getting called up or anything just yet. Because I think the kind of elephant in the room here is in a couple months when they make the move to the CW. And they need some signature people for that move to the CW. They can't, I got to get the feeling watching that show coming out of Heatwave. I was like, okay, they did this big deal with the main event. They moved these pieces around. We made Ethan Page champ out of nowhere. And I was looking at it like, okay, this is probably like, I got the feeling like this is a nice little short-term story that will take us in to that move to the CW. I could possibly even see Ethan Page keeping the belt to them. Maybe they do like a big rematch with him and Trick Williams on your CW debut, because they got to be building things towards that launch coming very soon.
I think Trick stays through the launch in October, but I do think he gets called up around Royal Rumble time, just because I'm not convinced that he is long for NXT. With that said, though, I think if Williams moves on, and I suspect that he will and should, you already have what you have in Ethan Page with a guy that is definitely TV ready, obviously TV ready. You have a guy that will not be on the main roster in the sense that you don't need him there. He's actually better served for NXT. But when you have, so it's only up for Trick Williams. But when you have a guy like Ethan Page and Sean Spears, that's like just bringing in 2 veteran guys. You know that they're going to do, your title justice. Okay, cool. Now, of course, who's the young guy that's going to take it from them? They have 6 months to figure that out. So I do think that it's going to be interesting. That October debut is actually going to be pretty spicy.
Oh, yeah. They got to make a big splash when they show up there. That's why I keep thinking of like that first show is going to be like a pay-per-view in and of itself.
Yeah, I think so. Now, and obviously we'll talk about NXT on the CW a lot more as we get closer to the launch date, because the question is, do they tour? That's like the big question for me.
Yeah,
and
apparently they're absolutely talking about that.
Right. And we say that based on the fact that, they've had a couple of different events outside of the Performance Center in recent weeks. Vegas being in early June, Money in the Bank weekend in Toronto, this past weekend. Are they going to do a thing in Detroit? Where's SummerSlam? Nashville, wherever?
Cleveland.
SummerSlam? Cleveland, yeah.
Cleveland. Yeah.
One of those damn places. So yeah, will they do a thing out there in Cleveland somewhere? We know that they don't have a problem running a regular size building. They don't necessarily need to, but it is going to be interesting to see what that looks like because and how much the production and presentation changes for NXT once they hit TV, network TV. With that said, though, yeah, I've heard a lot of good things about Heatwave. I did not see it personally. I was traveling on Sunday, but of all the things that I did hear about the Jordan Sol Ruka match, and I did hear, of course, Ethan Page winning the NXT Championship in the Fatal 4-Way. So things are looking up, and it definitely seems that they're building towards. And NXT is kind of like in its own little world, also, where Heatwave just happened, and it happened to be Money in the Bank weekend, but they don't necessarily have to build a SummerSlam. They have other things going on that are of interest too. So yeah, good on them.
NXT is very much its own self-contained show. And for whatever reason, it's been a story the past couple of weeks. They're the one show that's growing. They are gaining viewers. They are gaining momentum. And compared to a lot of these other shows, where the ratings was kind of what they are, NXT's gotten hot all on its own, just doing ever since the crossover started, where it's I think it's created this deal where people are excited to tune in because it's what the hell's going to happen on here? There's a genuine deal of there's a wild card factor now of who might show up. And if they do show up, what are they going to do? So it's definitely given an unpredictable feel to it, which, hey, I think it's worked really damn good. That Sol Ruka Kalani Jordan match, I saw people comparing that to Rob Van Dam and Jerry Lynn in ECW. Damn. People comparing it to Ricochet and Will Ospreay when they were having their matches a little while back. Even Ricochet tweeted out one of the gifs about it, saying this looks really familiar.
Oh wow!
Yeah, people were definitely taking note that those girls were clearly doing some tape study and replicating some stuff. But hey, I'll give them credit. Those two are crazy athletic and just can pull off some wild stuff. So yeah, NXT Heatwave was a hell of a show. Ethan Page as champ is definitely an interesting scenario.
Right.
Now, for where it creates these next couple months. And so where do we go from here?
So Ethan Page winning the belt. Mm-hmm. What does that say about people that are in other companies, not specifically AEW, but let's just say AEW, and they realize that the grass may be greener in NXT?
Right.
I mean, obviously, not knowing what his contract is, not knowing what his workload is, and stuff like that, there will be trade-offs. But knowing that you can get that striking while the iron is hot is the key to everything. Obviously, there are going to be some of those guys in AEW specifically that shouldn't move because they don't have to move. Monet ain't going nowhere, obviously. Moxley's not going anywhere, obviously. But what about those middle-of-the-road guys? Maybe like a Private Party. Maybe like a Ricky Starks. Maybe like Will Hobbs. They don't have to stay in AEW. They could. They probably should. But when you have the backing of the entertainment behemoth that is WWE, with the opportunity for growth, there's nowhere to go from AEW. Once you're there, you're there. But at least in NXT, you can graduate on to the main roster if they have you do it, or make a spot appearance at a major pay-per-view, WrestleMania or Rumble and such. I wonder if this new approach makes NXT feel like it's a lot more appealing, which, and we'll talk about later, is how they got Stephanie Vaquer.
Right. Yep. Stuff is definitely happening. I think these have been very calculated moves to be like, hey, we want the word out. We want it shown very clearly that, hey, if you come here, we got a way to use you, and we're not going to drag our feet on it. It's going to happen very quickly, and you'll be featured in a prime spot very quickly.
Right. And I think that, and of course, even if you're not that person yet, where you don't necessarily have a name for yourself or whatever, there's still like NXT Level Up, where, those guys are still at the bottom, trying to make their way up and do a thing. So I wonder if this is kind of like the, because there will always be free agents. There will always be moving parts. It's a sport. It's a business. It's entertainment. But I wonder if you're on the indies and you have never been to WWE, you're a young guy or lady, and you've made it so far. I wonder if you go, well, damn, maybe AEW isn't the where the grass is greenest anymore, because NXT, they're definitely on the up. They've definitely changed some things subtly, and look at what we're talking about now.
And when we were just saying earlier, they're going to be going from cable to network TV. So it's like the whole trajectory of that show. I think we have to go all the way back to the conversion from black and gold to 2.0.
Yeah.
And it's been a slow process over the last 2 years. But now it's like all these changes, they're all bearing fruit. And it's all like happening very quickly all of a sudden. Where it's like all this momentum is really starting to pick up for them.
Yeah. I mean, I like it, and that's kind of the thing. This competition, and even though NXT isn't on Wednesdays anymore. Okay, cool. They won't be on Wednesdays when they move to the CW. Okay, cool. But it's still the idea that you have guys like Frankie Kazarian, you have guys like Joe Hendry, you have guys like Ethan Page, Sean Spears, Cedric Alexander popping up out of the blue on NXT, making moves. And this is kind of like the NXT that we envisioned, where it's not a demotion to say that you're going there. It's an opportunity to go reestablish yourself, get a new look, do a thing without fully leaving the company. So it's working out. It's working out, and I really hope that they keep that going until October, to the CW release. So
there we go. All right, let's do this. Let's take our halftime break. When we come back, we'll probably finish up talking a little bit about some NXT. We'll do our indie spotlight first. We'll hit that, and we'll finish a little bit more talking about NXT, because Tuesday night they came, and the NXT TNA crossover is hitting on all cylinders. We got more faces showing up. We'll talk about that. We'll get into some other stuff, because we got Mami is back on Raw. So the telenovela that is the Liv Morgan, Dominic Mysterio, Rhea Ripley triangle is getting spicy. And then on top of that, like we mentioned earlier, rumors that Stephanie Vaquer may be headed to Orlando. All that and more. Stay with us, folks. Your Big Gold Belt Wrestling Podcast. We'll be back right after this.
Are you a fan of all things media? Are you a fan of professional wrestling and sports? Then you need to check out Big Gold Belt Media. We're the ultimate destination for all things entertainment and media, with the latest news, interviews, and analysis from the world of the aforementioned entertainment realm. Our team of dedicated journalists and analysts will bring you exclusive content that you're not going to find anywhere else. And we're not just an online destination. We attend live events, conventions, bringing you behind-the-scenes access and exclusive content that you're not going to find anywhere else. Plus, you can show your support for our brand by subscribing to our Patreon, patreon.com/BigGoldBelt. Join the Big Gold Belt Media community today and stay ahead of the game. Follow all our social media platforms at Big Gold Belt for the latest updates and exclusive content. Whether you're a diehard wrestling, sports, nerd culture fan, or just a casual like some people, Big Gold Belt Media has everything you're going to need to stay informed and entertained. So what are you waiting for? Check us out today at BigGoldBelt.com. That's BigGoldBelt.com.
Welcome back, folks, to the Big Gold Belt Wrestling Podcast. When we come back from halftime, we like to check out what's happening on the indie scene. So here is Giant Crab with this week's Big Gold Belt Indie Wrestling Spotlight.
And this week, we're going all the way out west to San Francisco, the United Irish Cultural Center for West Coast Pro, Prestige Wrestling, Deadlock Pro Wrestling, multi-promotion, interpromotional show, Ridiculousness Bonanza 2024.
It's a super show.
It's more than a super show. Alex Shelley versus Alpha Zoe is the big one of the big matches. Calvin Tankman versus Gia. is one I want to see. Vinny Massaro versus Adam Priest looks like a lot of fun. It looks like an interesting show in general. Shelton Benjamin on the card, Alan Angels on the card, Kevin Blackwood on the card. Starboard Charlie on the card. It's at the United Irish Cultural Center in San Francisco. It is West Coast Pro Wrestling, DPW, Deadlock Pro Wrestling, and Prestige Pro Wrestling, and they present Untouchable. That's July 20th in San Francisco. You can get your tickets at westcoastpro.eventbrite.com or your West Coast Pro Wrestling.com. Of course, check out Deadlock and Prestige Wrestling. They have information as well. But Untouchable, Deadlock, Prestige, West Coast Pro, doing a thing out in San Francisco at the United Irish Cultural Center, July 20th, westcoastprowrestling.com for details and information. And that's the Indie Spotlight for this week.
Awesome. There's so many shows happening this summer all over the place. The Indies are back. That is for sure. And there's just a lot of wrestling to watch this year. So as we keep talking about this NXT deal and all that momentum NXT's on, we've been talking about NXT for weeks now since this crossover started. The NXT TNA crossover, as we've been calling it. We had the next phase on Tuesday night. There was already, a tease, of course, at the end of Heatwave. They threw up the graphic of Joe Hendry turning around, say his name, and he appears. So they're already teasing that. And then that wasn't enough. We got Joe Hendry back on the Performance Center this week. We also had the full-on reunion of the Rascals with all three of them showing up. So we had the two guys are in TNA meeting up with oh my God, what's his name? I'm blanking on his name now. Wesley. Yeah. There we go. So Trey Miguel showed up, and we got the whole crew back together. And so next week we are building now towards a 6-man that they announced for next week for NXT TV. They're going to be facing the guys in Gallus next Tuesday night. Where did I put that in here in our group chat? That graphic for Gallus versus the reunited. Oh, maybe I didn't put it in there. I heard last night though. But Gallus will be taking on the reunited Rascals next week on NXT TV. So between that and then we had Joe Hendry in the full-on main event teaming with Trick Williams against new champion Ethan Page and oh my God, 10 guy. What's his name?
Sean Spears.
Sean Spears. There we go. I am horrible with names today. God, thinking Gavin Spears is ECW.
Well, I'm actually glad that they're not calling him Ty Dillinger anymore.
Yes. They make sure it's a clear designation that he is not 10 guy, even though to me he'll always be 10 guy. But we had Joe Hendry in the main event. And this was not like his first appearance where just, thrown over the top rope in the Battle Royal and just got the entrance. He got the entrance again, and this time he got to shine. He was over like hell in that building. So the NXT TNA crossover clearly is not slowing down in any way, shape, or form. They are the pedal is down. We may have had the women's title match, but this is still going. So what are your thoughts on this? Now we got Rascals up in here.
Number one, I like it. This is unprecedented territory for WWE. Even though this is happening in NXT, it's happening in a space that doesn't get the credit that it deserves compared to the main roster. This is exactly what wrestling fans have been asking for forever. And the ratings reflect it. The interest online reflects it. And NXT is arguably, they're in a different space, but they're arguably their best work ever. I mean, I haven't been this interested in the everyday moments of NXT since like 2016. And
it hasn't been this hot in a long, long time.
Right. And that has nothing to do with anything else other than their own merits. And this is the great thing about it is that they're not doing a main roster thing. They're not, spite signing free agents from AEW. They are not trying to rub out the indies or in Britain or in the West Coast or Australia or Japan. They're just doing their thing and put it on a competent wrestling product that is interesting, has depth, and makes me want to follow along. So, for just to keep it short, NXT is doing their best work in a long ass time. And I don't know how much of that is credited to Shawn Michaels. A lot of people think that he's the architect that they didn't know they needed. But, we have been really waiting for this moment since Dusty passed of getting the structure of NXT back to a level that it used to be. And, if you don't know the names, if none of these guys sound familiar, you'll know them, because they're doing a hell of a job down there.
Yeah, I think part of the most interesting part of this deal is Zachary Wentz reappearing, since of course he was there before in the tag team with Wesley. They were MSK and always had a very weird reception there at the end of the Black and Gold era. But Wesley ended up as a singles because Zachary Wentz got let go. And so it's been a good over a year since all that happened. I think about a year and a half or so since all that went down. And here we are. Now he's getting his way back in through the merger as part of, TNA. And it makes me wonder if they're kind of looking at this as, well, maybe we get these guys all back together, or just, hey, we don't even need to do that. We can, we want you on the show. We have an open door now with TNA. So we don't have to have you under our contract, but you can be on our show. And maybe, once your deal's up, maybe we change things then. But it's interesting to me that when I was first hearing the rumblings that they might do something with the Rascals, it was okay, but they definitely, Zachary was let go from them when he was there. So it's they had them, but clearly they're willing to give another opportunity here. So very curious to see how this plays out. And also, of course, we never had Trey Miguel in the mix before when they were in NXT. So this is the full version now that we're getting.
Yeah, no, I like it. And I would say that the this partnership has been going on in a way that I didn't think was going to happen. Largely because WWE has no reason to do it.
Right.
They just the burden isn't on them. But then again, obviously they do, because we're seeing that fans, not just WWE fans, not just TNA fans, but fans in general, are interested to see what happens next. So
it's paying off.
It's paying off. And so you could argue that, well, what's in it for TNA? Well, the fact that they have their talent on WWE TV is a plus. But what's in it for WWE? People are very interested because this is uncharted territory that we're in right now. So everybody's winning. And I dare say that, I'm okay with this partnership ending, because you can't just go on forever. Then just buy TNA at this point. Right. But if we can get TNA season a month or two, and it means something, and it's in a meaningful way, then I like the way they're doing it, and I think that it's what Forbidden Door should have been. But it's hard to bridge that gap between the U.S. and Japan for a number of logistical reasons versus NXT and TNA.
Yeah, it's a different scenario. And I think the key thing is we have this window here right now where it's working. At some point, it'll lose sizzle. It'll have kind of run its course. And when that happens, okay, fine. You go your separate ways. But I like the idea of just, they got this in their back pocket now of stuff like this can happen. It's not completely out of the realm of possibility. And if it's not a regular thing, that's what'll keep it special. So
you know what they did? And I think that they've changed the tone of this partnership where it's not they put the spotlight on the wrestlers. It's not
an invasion, which would be the typical way you'd see these things happening.
Right.
There's no invading going on.
Yeah, this isn't the TNA invasion. This isn't the WWE poaching. This is, oh shit, that's Jordan Grace. Oh, it's the Rascals. Oh, it's Joe effing Hendry. And and these are things that give them a little bit more important, because now at first it was, well, are they going to get the men involved? Well, they did. Well, what other women could come through? All of them. And so it doesn't seem to have an end. It doesn't seem to have a bottom. And I like the fact that, it's not just well, I don't know who the figurehead of TNA is now, since it's not Scott D'Amore, but it's not just Scott D'Amore, being chastised by Shawn Michaels.
Right.
Or,
we do not feuding GMs.
Yeah, we don't have that, so, or Josh Matthews trying to muscle in on a Booker T's commentary spot or whatever. So yeah, I'm glad that it's about the wrestlers, it's about the storylines, and not just about can these two corporations coexist. There
you go. Yeah, definitely. I would say for the last couple months, one of the most interesting things in wrestling television, for sure, for sure. Yeah. All right, here's another thing that's definitely been catching a lot of steam lately, and has been delivering a lot of attention for WWE. And I don't think we've talked about this at all in recent weeks because our shows have been so busy. But Dominic Mysterio, Liv Morgan, and Rhea Ripley in a soap opera-esque telenovela love triangle that's been going on here since Rhea Ripley got hurt. They've had Liv Morgan making her moves, trying to weasel her way into the Judgment Day, and just making it clear that she's interested in Dominic and all this, and Dominic being very like, I don't know what to do, and put in an odd situation. And it's been doing really well in the ratings. If you care about ratings, Lord knows we don't really try to get into that on this show, but people have been into it. These soap opera angles tend to do really well like that, and this one has been doing the same thing. And I wasn't expecting it really to go beyond the point of Liv just constantly going after Dominic for a while, is what I figured we were doing. But this Monday, WWE threw a curveball in here, and out of nowhere, Rhea Ripley returned. And I was not expecting that anytime soon, because it seemed like she was going to be out for quite a while. And she didn't do anything physical, but the main event of Raw was Liv Morgan and Dominic against Rey Mysterio and Zelina Vega. And at the end of the match, lo and behold, boom, here's Rhea Ripley. Comes out, Mami is home to see what is going on with Dominic. And of course, they did the obvious, Dominic is totally like shocked, and Liv ran for the hills. But Rhea Ripley's already back. I don't think, and she didn't have a cast on or anything. There was nothing really looked like there was any kind of, she was out with a shoulder injury. She wasn't in a sling or anything. So I'm not sure what the deal is, if she's like rehabbed really well or something. But Rhea already showing up was not expected. And I'm really curious.
I thought she was going to be gone for months.
Oh yeah, it was sounding like she would be back to like Royal Rumble, is what I was assuming when she went in.
Right.
But I don't know. This seems like we're kind of jumping the gun on where this whole story was going, but here we are. And that kind of, spicing things up a lot sooner than I expected.
True. But, and obviously her being back doesn't mean that she's, getting in the ring anytime soon. And of course they can sell that storyline until she's ready to return to the ring. Well, I guess the first thing, number one, good shout to Liv Morgan. This is her opportunity, and she's been killing it. Yeah. So that, that's very important to a thing that can't be understated. But I also think that, Rhea coming back being the surprise, I wonder if this is part of the plan, or hopefully she is, rehabbing a lot earlier and is able to, get back into the ring sooner than later. As far as the storyline goes, this is, typical bread and butter WWE storyline. They love their, over dramatic Bollywood, telenovela-esque dramas. That's what they've made their money on for a long ass time. And yeah, this is, they are living or reenacting the dream of every 13 to 17-year-old that's like, oh my God, I have a cute best friend. But wait a minute, that other cute best friend over there wants to be my new best friend. What do I do? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And, sure, that is a thing. But the people have been eating it up. So, I'm glad that one thing that WWE does also, as much as they love this stuff, they love to drive a damn point into the ground and bury it. And, keeping things fresh has been a thing that WWE has struggled with for a long time. And yeah, this is one of those wrinkles where like, oh my God, this is an actual surprise. And we're glad that we're actually surprised. Cool. So good. Keep it up. And obviously having Rhea come back is a surprise that nobody thought that they would have. So,
and it might also be a scenario where we're looking at this deal, we're like, hell, they just managed to keep CM Punk and Drew McIntyre feuding since the Royal Rumble, and Punk's been injured the entire time. They found a way to make that work and keep it relevant and keep CM Punk on TV and be like, no, this feud's not going anywhere. We're going to have you interfere in matches. We're going to have you cost him the title and stuff. And it's been since January. And here we are in July. And they didn't do a deal where it's like, oh, you got hurt. That feud's got to go. This isn't Adam Cole MJF where it's like, oh, you got hurt and everything, it just disappears, falls off the face of the planet until like someone's healthy again. They found a way to make this work. So maybe the deal simply is either Rhea's going to be ready sooner than they're thinking, or there's like, no, we can keep this going. So yeah, where this is going from here, I don't know, but I think it definitely is going to help that we hadn't reached the point yet of Liv and Dom just playing off each other, getting stale, and they still, man, and they've already gotten to this point now. So it's like they're keeping this thing spicy, they're keeping it fresh. So I'm very curious now because with SummerSlam just around the corner, it's like, where's Rhea gonna figure into this? Because at the very least, it sounds like she might be in somebody's corner doing something. She's gonna have some sort of role. Otherwise, it wouldn't have had her show up on the Raw after Money in the Bank. She's got to be involved in some way.
Yeah, it's a it is a thing, and I wonder what the timeline is for Rhea to return. I wonder if they are obviously there. It seems to be Rhea versus Liv Morgan for another Dominic Mysterio custody battle.
Right,
but
hang him from the ceiling.
Yeah, but it is. I wonder if that is a thing that can happen where maybe Rhea does appear before SummerSlam. You know, maybe she actually, maybe that's when she comes back. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it goes. I don't mind it. Obviously, it's a wrinkle, and you know, it's just good storytelling. So good on WWE for that.
There we go. All right, let's switch gears to the news of the day. As we had stuff happening today, we were getting ready to put this show together. We got news coming out of Mexico that we rewind to Forbidden Door, and we had what was that? It was double title match, right? Yeah, because now we have Mercedes Moné has 2 belts because she won the match.
Right.
But Stephanie Vaquer has been rumored by Mexican media to be headed to Orlando, headed to WWE. What we do know for sure is CMLL put out a joint statement today with New Japan saying that going forward, she is no longer with them, citing personal reasons. She has been stripped of the title she held there. So she's definitely done as far as they go. There was going to be a show this weekend, I think, in California. There's a show coming up in Long Beach that she was going to be on, and she is off of that completely.
The New Japan show.
Yes, the New Japan show. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that this weekend?
Because I think CMLL has a show in Tijuana, Mexico.
But either way, going forward, they've made it clear she's out. She is out. Stripped of the title and all that. So usually if you're not going to be able to keep the title, that would definitely make me think that sounds like you're going to WWE, because I'd be like, okay, you're done, all aboard, and you're not getting to do stuff on the side like, you know, Forbidden Door stuff. But what's interesting about this to me is let's say that's the case. If that is what's happening here, then she got snatched right out of that Forbidden Door before anything had a chance to happen. I mean, that show was only a couple weeks ago, and if that's what's happening here, this deal came together very quickly.
Yeah, and I wonder how that was able to happen so quickly. You know, it was a little bit of, you know, the contract was up, no tampering, of course not, because nobody does that. But Stephanie kind of knew where she was headed after her contract is up, or maybe it was a little bit of, okay, fine, if you really don't want to be here, we'll release you. Yeah. You know, good luck. So it'll be interesting. And then, of course, whenever they, you know, sign somebody like that, where you're just not sure how that's going to work out, how much of an impact will she immediately make? Where does she land in WWE? Is she another NXT hopeful that pops up? Will they save her until October? Because she still has to come in, get the WWE, you know, workload down.
She has to get a work visa and all that.
Well,
so
there's that too.
There's a lot of paperwork that's have to be done to get her in.
Yeah. So will they save her until October, and then she's one of the big gets on the new show? But then of course there's still the main roster. So I wonder if they obviously have a thing, they have a plan, they have plans for her, because why else would you bring her in? But it is a thing as to like this seemed very, very sudden as to how it happened.
Yeah, the line in the announcement from CML and New Japan where it's citing personal reasons really stands out to me. Because like, what was the stat? I mean, she was a champion there. So it's like, what was the status of her deal with them? That she had a belt there. She had just worked Forbidden Door. She just did a show there last night in Mexico with Tessa Blanchard. So she was working with them. She was actively doing stuff. It's not like she was on the back burner and not being seen. And that just like this snap of the fingers, it's like, no, she's out. She's gone just like that. So right. I don't know. Is it just as simple as she's like, I kind of said online, I was like, is citing personal reasons as simple as I have better opportunities to pursue, and that's it,
Yeah, I don't know, and that's kind of the thing. It's like, who actually knows, how that end happened, and it just seems that it's so very sudden. So, but now that it's happened, the big question is, of course, well, when and where does she make her appearance in the U.S.?
Right.
I don't know. I don't, and I say that, SummerSlam is in a month, a little over a month, 6 weeks or something like that. And then that's, late August. You have Survivor Series, coming up. You have, of course, the Royal Rumble in January. 3 months isn't a long wait between, now and the end of the year, going into next year. So they definitely could get the vignette machine going, build her up to do wherever she's going to land, and just start that thing and then debut her in a major spot. So it is definitely 100% feasible that she could come in tomorrow on SmackDown, or she could, debut in a meaningful way. I don't know what you do, because she doesn't have any presence in the U.S. I don't know how much the fans would actually know about her and what she's, capable of. So.
Yeah, I think you got to go the vignette route. Like you were saying, we gotta do the slow rollout here, is what I would be thinking. I kind of like the idea of maybe the CW premiere might be something for that. And of course, I mean, if she's gonna be in NXT, we got Gulia still out there, Because I mean, the NXT women's division could have a very different look very quickly between two big pieces of talent here.
We were saying that Roxanne Perez, she just shouldn't be long
for a call up.
Yeah, long overdue. Kalani Jordan is kicking ass. So, and then we got a couple people injured also that have been injured for a minute too. So, yeah, that women's division is looking pretty stacked. And that's assumed that she's coming to Orlando. But yeah, Shawn Michaels tweeted out today, welcome to the WWE family. See you in Orlando.
Oh,
I don't know what that means. Yeah, I don't know what that means specifically, but obviously
all signs seem to point in one direction.
Yeah, I would like to see her in NXT, but it's also to the point of making sure, but we'll see.
One question for you before we wrap up this topic. If you're Tony Khan, knowing you put her on that platform, put her on Forbidden Door, and then this immediately happened, do you think twice then about showcasing foreign talent or certain people that you might think might get snatched out from under you like that?
No, because it goes both ways. It absolutely goes both ways, because if Ricochet or what the hell is the other guy, Mustafa Ali,
right?
If he could have absolutely moved mountains to get them into AEW immediately, when they had Eric Rowan pop up for Brody Lee's tribute show and stuff like that,
right?
And then of course during the AEW NXT Spike Fest, you would see like, oh, That's the artist formerly known as whoever. And then they would cut their anti-WWE promo for 2 weeks straight and then move on. So it goes both ways. And we've seen this happen once, to AEW's 15. That's just the game. That's just part of the game. Make them a better offer. But also have a plan for them. So, no, I don't see, because if you start to second guess yourself, then don't do it at all. Close the forbidden door.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Not as everybody has to do it.
Yeah. Just close the forbidden door. It is what it is. And that's the thing. And then who knows? I mean, maybe AEW reached out to her and she said, and the deal didn't work out. They didn't have enough money. Maybe she wants to work with a particular talent. Maybe she just loves Shawn Michaels that much. Yeah. Maybe she's afraid of Big Breaker. Who knows?
There's all kinds of reasons.
Yeah, there's a million reasons for anyone to do anything at any time. So I do think in general, I like it. I like what she brings, but that see you in Orlando. And then her responding an hour ago with just a heart is like, okay.
Yeah, okay. That sounds like I hadn't seen that. So that sounds like it tells us everything we need to know. There we go.
Yeah.
All right, we got a couple minutes left. You had some stuff before we went on the air that you were mentioning getting in.
Yeah, so real quick, Drew McIntyre, according to Variety magazine, signs with Paradigm, which is a talent agency. According, I'm going to read straight from the article, quote, McIntyre is also breaking into the world of acting. He will make his feature film debut in the Lionsgate actioner The Killer's Game alongside WWE alum Dave Bautista, as well as Sophia Botella, Palm Clementieff, who was in Guardians of the Galaxy as well, and Ben Kingsley, who I generally like. That show, that movie will come out September 13th. I don't know Paradigm from the other major agencies, but I do believe a couple other WWE guys are signed there as well. I think CM Punk is signed there and stuff. So, and since McIntyre's already wrapped in a movie, he's definitely dipping his toes into other things a little bit, as well he should. This is part of WWE may not pay the best, but this is part of the perks. That gets you. Nick
Khan knows people.
Yeah. So he knows people. His people know people, and then they're getting them ready for the next step, and that's what it is. He can't do it forever. The second thing is Chris Jericho. He did a podcast, and he said about retiring because fans have been chanting, "Please retire." Fans have been chanting things about Jericho's age and stuff like that. And he says, and I quote, "When I know, I'll know about retirement." And I think that's the kind of best way to put it for right now. I'm having too much fun enjoying it. And really enjoying building AEW. In just 5 years, we've already gone so far and have so much further to go to the highest level. So from that standpoint, we'll see. As for right now, as long as I'm having fun and enjoying myself and feeling good in the ring, there's no reason to stop, which totally makes sense. And to be honest with you, a lot of for the people that have been yelling, "Please retire," and all this, and you're too old, and he's turned that into an angle.
Yeah. He found a way to make it work.
Yeah, we have found another way to make it work. So it's like, this is what the good ones do. They turn a negative into a positive, and they get to work. So good on Jericho, but also please retire.
Co-signed on that one. All right, is that everything? We got
that's it. Yeah.
All right, let's wrap it up then. Folks, every Thursday night, 8 p.m., your Big Gold Belt Wrestling podcast is here talking the week in wrestling. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks for joining us. The next day, it drops in podcast form, sometimes even the same night lately. But the audio version is available if you like that too. We got the video. Okay, let's see. I'm all messing up here on my darn rundown here of everything to do. Okay, we got the social medias. Let me do the social medias next. Of course, across the board, it's at Big Gold Belt on all your social media platforms. So Twitter, Instagram, all that good stuff on all those platforms, as always. BigGoldBelt.com is the website. Of course, wrestling, movies, comics, and more. Keeping you up to date on everything going on. We're into Comic-Con season. So there's there's going to be a lot of movie drama coming up. So old 2 Chainz will be out there covering all that movie reviews.
Also, AEW is working a show during Comic-Con as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Okay. We'll talk about it next week a little bit, but AEW's got a couple mixed tag matches with some Adult Swim characters.
Oh, geez. So they're doing their own crossover.
Oh, yes, they are. Been begging for the synergy, and here it is. So
there we go. So, okay, we'll have all kinds of stuff to get into next week then. So next Thursday night, we will be back to run that all down, whatever else is going on in wrestling over the next week. We'll talk about it next Thursday night. So in the meantime, folks, stay safe, stay cool, because it is hot as hell out there. This summer is burning up. But we will talk to you then and see you next Thursday.